Yes, thank you for joining us in FI Connects. This is our ITF and coaches conversation. We have created your own space for you. If you joined us last week, you were with a lot of leadership conversations, district conversations, and we really wanted to give you your own forum because there's a lot that you have to share, a lot of questions that you may have, and we wanted to give you that space. We're also using the hashtag FIConnects, where we are sharing resources and good things that we're seeing. So you can feel free to share with that on that as well. So how does FI Connects work? This was created last week when we recognized the need for just bringing educators and voices together to support one another. This is informal. It is discussion-based. We want to be inclusive, and this is co-led by you. So we are gonna, do a check-in, pulse check of where we are now, and why did we put you on a Tuesday rather than Wednesday like last week? Last week, if you joined us at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. We thought if we had all the coaches together on Tuesday, it also gives you the opportunity to pop into the educator conversations that are happening on Wednesdays, so that you can continue to be supportive, that you can also guide your colleagues there and continue to be that support. So that's why we've got these 2 different days operating right now. And as a coach, ITF, what are we calling ourselves these days? There's so many different titles, but if you are someone that supports your colleagues in this distance learning transition that we're undergoing, whether it be with packets, some online, a blended instruction, all online, you're in the right place. So we hope, we want to create a safe place in this community. With that being said, it is an inquiry-based learning situation, right? And that requires an environment that really supports some risk-taking. So we invite you to ask open-ended questions. We invite you to ask questions. There's more than one possible answer, and while we may not get to answer everybody's questions during this time today, we are going to try, and all ideas are okay to share. That's why we're here. So we have gone from potentially a few weeks of distance learning to what is now a few months. North Carolina just announced yesterday, where we're sitting right now, that we've gone from going back to school in April to going not back to school until next year. So yes, May 15th is when they've closed schools, and that's essentially the end of the school year here in the South. And I'm just kind of curious, and some people have already been sharing what you expected. Last week has changed already, and it's only Tuesday. And our challenges are likely to change again, but we want to really consider, the now what as we're looking ahead and moving forward. So with that in mind, I got a pulse check for you. How are you feeling in week 2? So a link has been added to the chat.
Jackie, I was just wondering, where is the Groundhog Day, every day is the same emoji?
Yeah, I couldn't find that one.
Couldn't find that one? Okay.
So if you're looking at this, if you log into the link, it gives a little explanation here about my emojis. We have the so far so good, hanging in there. The seriously, don't really know what to think. Not so good, and the over it all. So we've got some positive people here. Yeah, we're hanging in there. So far so good. Depending on the moment, I think sometimes I'm in the seriously pie to the face, don't know what to expect kind of moment. But it's a good time to go with the flow and to be flexible. We're going to talk about some strategies to support you in being flexible. And I know that you are worried about your kids. There's a lot of teachers online talking about how they miss their kids. This has never happened before in our lifetimes. So for many of us, what is it? The Spanish flu was the last time, and we're talking early 1900s. So this is going to be a interesting and trying time, and being able to stay connected, to hang in there with whatever pies get thrown at us. We're going to have to see. So I want to start our conversation first by let's just honestly celebrate what you've been able to accomplish in less than 2 weeks. So take a moment if you want to grab the mic, if you want to drop in the chat, what has been a success or something to celebrate in this short time? What is working?
Hey, Jackie, Pam here from Jackson County. How are you, girl?
Hey, Pam. Oh my gosh, Jackson County. It's like on the other side of the state. How y'all doing?
We're doing okay. The internet here really stinks, like super bad. So we're a little bit worried about that. I have been so impressed with my teachers in my district. I mean, some of them are high flyers with technology and some of them are not. And they have just jumped in the deep end of the ocean and are putting a smile on their face and are doing the best that they can. And I think this is going to be a time when educators across our state, across the nation, really show what we bring to the table and what we do for students. And it's tough and it's frustrating and it's exhausting, but I really think that it's a time where people are going to go, wow, teachers, wow, because it's just been an amazing thing in my district thus far.
If anyone ever questions the teaching profession again, I think we've got, a lot to say about that. I'm also seeing in the chat, 30,000 meals going home to feed students. Slow and steady. Yep, I agree, Misty. There's a conversation in our chat about, testing, and it is sounding like it is a no-go, that they will be, I haven't actually heard anything confirmation or not, but there's been a lot of talk in the last 24 hours about whether we will have testing or not. Faculty feeding students, focusing on the learning. Everything's changing quickly. Yep. Anybody else want to grab the mic and shout out a celebration, something to be proud of? Because I would think about what you've turned around in less than 2 weeks.
Jackie, I just want to add two that I've seen in the chat. One is from Sandy from McDowell County with Facebook Live to teach the younger grades, all ages for 6 days, I should say. And then also up here, it was all in bold about teachers being creative now that they are not, and I'm going to put words in this person's chat, but now that they're not confined to the four walls of a classroom, and just getting out there and being creative. And one that I've seen before, I think on Facebook, was teaching science while in the garden. So you don't have to, be confined to even your school, but just really being creative, because now some districts are doing review or more low stakes learning. So I think a little bit of that pressure is off for teachers to be more creative without any penalties.
Yeah, I see that comment by Ashley. Ashley, thank you for that, and definitely want to shout that out. We got to be creative. We got to think outside the box. That's the last thing our teachers sometimes want to hear in this situation, but McDowell County is killing it on Facebook Live. That's nice. And I love that you're using Facebook Live, because if you're thinking about where are your people, if your students need to connect, but their parents are on Facebook, that makes sense that the parents can support them to get there. I wanted to take a moment to kind of celebrate even the smallest victories, because it's something that you have to do in these times. It's a great way to keep up morale, but it's also an opportunity for you to brag on your teachers and brag to your teachers about how awesome they're being. Teachers are terrible at it, let's face it. We are so focused on our kids that we don't really stop to say, look what I did, and to celebrate that. So that's just one thing you can really do for those that you support, is give them shout outs. Let them know that you see it. Brag about them as much as possible, because that's just a great way to give some support. So with that being said, and I'm curious, how are we staying connected? Is it, a lot of it's on digital for some of us. For some, I do the discussion with elementary teachers. Some of us are just calling homes, and talking to kids. Maybe that's what's going to support your staff, is, that check-in phone call, that Facebook Live, doing video. So I see folks dropping in the chat, being intentional with that communication. I totally agree, because it's just so many emails and so many things right now. Dojo, Canvas, calling, a lot of Google Hangouts, check-ins with students on Google Meet, Seesaw. I love it. If you are using something already, keep on using it, right? This is not the time to introduce a new platform for educators to suddenly use for communication if you don't have one, if you can help it, right? So we encourage, if you've got it, keep using it. Don't change something suddenly up on your educators, on your teachers, on your parents, on your students. And I'm seeing admin has office hours for staff to check in as well. That's amazing. If you haven't already posted your own office hours, do so. So you're not constantly sitting at your screen, right? And waiting if and when someone needs some support or some help. So I'm saying, yep. So it's a combination of the virtual. We've got the packets for those with no technology access. So really being able to that connection, I know you've heard it over and over again, it's so important. And
I'm just curious with the home visit. I think that's a great idea, but are you actually, Ashley, are you going inside, or are you just kind of like on the porch waving?
So Ashley says she's got some home visits. I love, Jeanette says, good old fashioned letter writing. I've seen a lot of teachers mailing some postcards just to homes to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. As a coach, as a support, even if it's just a one-line email that I'm thinking about you, I'm here. It's just when you're thinking about your teachers. Okay, and guidance counselors, nurses, social workers went to those home visits. Okay, so we're trying to figure it out, and any ways that you can stay connected is going to be helpful, especially as a coach, on really thinking about what those current needs are right now. Are you finding any challenges to checking in with teachers at this point? I see Lois is sharing too that they've created a list of students that they feel might be at risk, or with their counselors, social workers, who have top priority for check-in. That's something, if you know your kids, right, that's a good place to be. Yeah, I totally agree, Jennifer. She rates teachers that have children having a lot of difficulty balancing the time schedule. We have caught wind that some districts are expecting teachers to log a certain number of hours every day. And with the limited flexibility that teachers with children have, or coaches with children have, that is a challenge. And what that looks like. And you probably will have to be coaching some teachers along those lines of creating that schedule if they can, or having those conversations with leadership to explain, the realities of what's going on right now. Limited flexibility is a great issue. Yeah, Jill. But again, like again, show grace. We have to show some grace and some understanding. And so I have here in the chat too, educating through online newsletter, using a tool like S'more, for example, to get people's responses. Fun Flipgrid video challenges with beginning teachers. I love that, Misty. Beginning teachers are kind of like, I just got started. What do I do? So yeah, consider using some fun ways to engage with your staff as well, to just break up their day and ways to connect and continue to build that empathy and connection and communication. Our school, we got a school division is on educational pause this week. Teachers and principals are not working, but rather spending time with family in isolation. Our division office senior leadership team are working to determine next step for our kids. And so beginning to work from home on Monday. So maybe there does need to be a grace period, right? If it's applicable, if it's something that you can do, or at least suggest for some self-care during this time as we're figuring it out. And
there was a question about the Fun Flipgrid challenge. If Misty could just jump back into the to explain what that challenge was.
Yeah, Misty, you can jump in the chat or you can grab the mic.
Hey, this is Misty. What I did is I've just found it difficult to reach out to so many teachers because I serve multiple schools and multiple teams. So I just made a Flipgrid group with the BTs and just challenged them to share a fun fact about themselves and to tell us what their main task was for the day. Just share, what they were working on. And it was just a fun way to engage them.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great segue, because I have a little indulgent brain teaser for you, which is something that feel free to take and use with your staff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some words on the screen for 10 whole seconds. And I want you to count how many letter Fs you see in the statement, okay? So 10 seconds, how many letter Fs do you see? All right. So in the chat, I want you to just quickly drop in how many Fs did you see? So if you're looking at the chat, you'll see everybody kind of saw some different numbers, right? All right, so I'm going to give you a second chance, right? Because, I'm going to pop it back up on the screen and want you to, again, count how many Fs you see. All right, type in how many you saw. Maybe it's the same number. Could people sticking with the original number? All right, so what I'm going to do, because I hid a slide from you. So if you take a look, oh, I got this lovely little line on my slide right there. Now you can see how many letters we have. Isn't this weird, right? We all saw something a little bit different. And it's really interesting. Yeah, okay, I see that, Josh. Everybody gets me on that one. The Friday Institute little line at the bottom. So if you saw 7, kudos on you for grabbing the logo that's on our template as well. But this is kind of crazy, right? We're all looking at the same thing. We're looking for the same thing, but we don't always see the same thing. So you may have a reason why, like, you saw 6 and maybe some people saw 3 or some people saw 4. How many of you, just to consider, right? You counted all the Fs that are at the beginning of a word, but maybe not at the end of a word, like in the word of. Very often our eyes skip over the short words like of, And then our brains don't always hear it as an F sound because it sounds like a V, right? Or we miss it because instead of, how many of you like were just reading the words, and maybe some of you were scanning the words for the letter but not reading the words?
It looks like a lot of people miss the ofs, so
Mhm.
the F at the end.
Yep. So it goes with one, our minds just like it's a it's a short word. Our brains aren't really focusing on it. I also was a little tricky. The word scientific, right, is broken in half, so the F is at the beginning, and then likewise, we really need sometimes a new set of eyes when we're looking at things, or we need some perspective, and that's kind of the situation we're in. We come to our work, especially education, with a set of biases, and our biases now are really being challenged as to what we know, what we're looking for, and what else are we missing right in front of our faces, and else are we missing that's like right in front of us, and the goal is to keep it simple. This is not a difficult challenge, but how many different ways did we take it, or maybe we missed something. So I share this with you. One, it could be an interesting conversation to have with some of your staff as they're going through this time. But secondly, when we're thinking about distance learning, when we're thinking about our educational practices, what's right in front of us that we can use, we don't have to reinvent, but we might be missing it. So just wanted to kind of use this brain teaser to get you thinking a little bit as we have our conversation. So sometimes it might be right in front of the folks that we're supporting and helping, but what are some of the biggest needs? And some of you have already shared some of them in our chat, or if you would like to pick up the mic, what are some of the biggest needs that you're finding right now that really need some addressing now? Are you seeing right away balance and routine? Yeah. Ways to connect. Guidance from leadership. Is that policy guidelines from the state? How do we deal around issues of connectivity? Parents that don't necessarily can't support their kids during this time and helping them learn. Being overwhelmed by resources. Yes. And even while saying that, we're in another resource that we're throwing at you too, right? We're one more thing, but equitable practices, equity for students.
So Sandy brought up a really good point. I'm assuming, Sandy, that you might be an instructional technology facilitator. So it seems like some people are kind of like hurry up and learning the technology that they need when they may not have saw a need for it prior. And in the previous discussion, we were talking a lot about, or not a lot, but about equity issues and access. What I haven't seen so far is how to support exceptional children. I know I'm going to there's a mini course that's being offered from Georgia on how to support exceptional children, because I think that's especially hard right now. Clarity from districts. I know some districts were kind of pausing and being graceful, I guess, and then others were putting out more specifics. Every district I found to be very, very different for supporting the students.
We have a couple of requests
for
for
the Georgia one. Yes, I will.
Yeah, information on that. And how are you cautioning staff members to use all these great programs that will then cost them when we get back to normal? Yeah, suddenly there was a flurry of use it free, use it free, use it free. We don't know what's going to happen when maybe that will change. But I think the message you can put out there is don't get too comfortable with a thing. It's not about the stuff, but it's about their expectation of what they're teaching and how they want to teach it. Teachers are providing assignments to students without grading, due dates, required assessments, submitted, motivating students. A lot of these concerns are sometimes out of our control. And I think one of the best things that you can do is really consider what's within your control that you can do to support your staff and your colleagues. What can you put out there that you know can address the needs that you're hearing right now for the people that you support and what that looks like. And I have a resource to share with you. And considering a lot of the unknowns that we have going on, this might be helpful. It might also lead to a whole lot more questions. But curious, this is a model called the Nostra model. And I've shared this with a lot with coaches and folks that I've worked with in the roles where you're supporting someone. And the Nostra model is the model, is actually entitled a model for complex change. Anytime there's a change, this is a helpful model that can help you identify what needs support, what needs some quick action, what needs to be addressed first. So you're not trying to do everything at once, because it's just, right now, there's just so much, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do is consider a goal or goals that you have right now. Maybe it's a challenge that you want to overcome, something that you're facing. As you consider your goal, make sure they're actionable. Something that you can, it was within your power to support. Maybe something measurable, realistic right now, with everything that's going on. And we're calling these big, hairy, audacious goals, because why not go big, right? So consider at least one goal that you have, an obstacle that you perceive maybe in your way of completing that goal. So I'm going to take off the table the limitations of social distancing. Like, we all have to do that right now, right? So that is a roadblock that is just, it's there. We're going to put that aside. I'm also going to take off the table time and money, because there's never enough of both. So we can't use those as obstacles. But when you're considering where you're at and what your roadblocks are, then I'm going to show you the model. So first, we've got our goals. We have our roadblocks. And this is a tough one. But if you can identify what's keeping you from your goal, and this is the Nostra model, and I'm going to drop in a link to it. So once you can identify the missing piece, hopefully you know where to act. So you can see the equation for success is at the top. And vision plus skills, clear incentives, resources, and an action plan. That's going to get us to success. We're in a situation right now where we don't have all the pieces, right? But if you're talking to your staff and you're asking them, what do you feel like you're missing? What do you feel like you're missing? Then maybe you can help address the problem. And what I like about this model, you can see when there's a missing piece, it equals to an emotion, something that you can observe. If folks are frustrated, if they're confused, if they're anxious. So this perhaps could help you help them identify where they're at and what maybe you can do. So what questions do you have right now, any at all, about this model? It's gotten quiet.
I was reading Jeanette's, I was quiet because I was reading what Jeanette posted to everyone in the chat about this is a great time for inquiry or project-based learning, because you're not actually collecting a physical product from students now. So this was almost like a plug for slightly personalized learning, because you can do it now. It's a little bit, if anything, this has created an opportunity for it to be a little bit easier to personalize learning, because in some instances where students do have the device, people are able to personalize the learning. Or even the packets, like if you're handing out packets, there's still that opportunity there. So that's why I was quiet. I was reading what Jeanette said.
Oh yeah, there's so many really good things in the chat. Again, we'll make a transcript of the chat if you're gonna, like, if you are afraid you might miss something. We have 65 people in the room, and we've got a lot of great things kind of popping in. Yeah, I agree. Look, we are kind of stuck in the vision level of what this looks like, and we don't know what to expect. For example, my little guy just decided to wake up, so here we go. You're in a webinar with mommy. So we really do have to consider, what's going to work for our people. It's a difficult time because we can wait for someone to tell us what we need to do, but as coaches, or we can, we really have to start having like those connections with our staff and figure out what their needs right now. It's a very hard place to be in, and thanks. My little guy was like, please sleep for 2 hours. Nope. So I agree, Jill. It's the flexibility of being able to just say, look, we're trying, and how can we be of help? The visioning level does keep changing. It's really hard. And the more conversations you can have with your folks to just ask them what they need, and collaboratively creating that vision together. And like you would personalize instruction for your students, or personalized coaching for your staff is going to be hard, but it is going to be necessary right now as well.
It looks like there's a combination of flexibility that is needed, but then also way up, it is also structure. So having that balance between the flexibility for your own self, but then providing that structure for the teachers, or the teachers providing that structure for the students, seems to also be something that is needed, which are kind of like polar opposites though.
Yeah, like what Ashley said, like we are the structure. The coaches right now, you are providing structure to educators that are flying out there feeling really lost. They're all waiting, right? To like, what's the next thing? And if you can be that support, even just the listening ear, or to say, I'm here for you, you are some structure into this very influx time. Our students like structure, our teachers like structure. You think the day-to-day of school, it's very structured, and suddenly that's all flown out the window. So my question to you right now is like, how are you structuring that support that you're offering? And we are thinking outside of the box. We've talked about, email connections, doing the Flipgrid videos, which I love that idea. And how are we putting ourselves out there to offer support? And then at the same time, like, how are we publicizing that we're available for support? One of the things that the Friday Institute is doing is they have a virtual lunch-in session every day that someone made that said, hey, I'm going to be eating my lunch in front of Zoom. If you want to join me, let's have lunch and chat. And they're just there every day, whether people show up or not, but they're there. And it's really low stakes. Eat lunch, have a conversation. It could just be a great way to have some time to connect to your staff. Coaching coffee Zoom, there you go. Have a cup of coffee, tea, can chat. Sometimes making it as informal as possible will be the most effective thing you can do with so much formal instruction and resources and things being thrown at educators right now.
There's a great point that Jeanette brought up from Jim Knight. Anytime I see Jim Knight or Elena Aguilera, I'm going to pay attention.
Oh yeah.
And she mentioned like what's the most important thing that we need to talk about today? Mm-hmm. So while tomorrow we have no idea what's going to be announced, is it a complete shelter? So I think that's good for us to focus on right now, what little thing, what big thing can we focus on today?
And your educators are looking to you to help them figure that out. But you need the data, you need the conversation, you need to, kind of put it out there. I see, like, tweeting everything I see my beginning teachers and teachers doing. That's great for the morale, for sharing. If your folks are on Twitter, but really consider, where is your audience? If they're Twitter people, they're Twitter people. If they're on Facebook, the Facebook Live. If they struggle to check their email, well, they're checking it right now. Maybe that's the venue that you reach some people. So we need to really differentiate and think about how we are just reaching out and offering that support, and being calm and being the model as best that we can be for maybe how to approach these crazy times. As I'm seeing the chat, we're going to call them crazy times. They are. And what is the need now? I mean, maybe having that morning coffee session and going, what is your need today? Let's just talk about it. Let's take one thing at a time. And so we want to reach out to our teachers equitably. We don't want it to be, and we shouldn't be surprised if maybe they don't respond. They may not be ready yet, but we want to keep reaching out. We want to feed those people that are hungry for it now. And we want to be consistent in how and when we share information. So creating that time of day where you are available and broadcasting it and saying, this is the time to really connect. I'm here for you. Here are my office hours, or call them something different, like the coffee and chat. And your audience, your folks, they're going to come to you if there's consistency there. And we want to keep that consistency as simple as possible. If you're publishing a newsletter of resources, do it on a timeline, like say it will always come out on a Wednesday at noon or something, let them know. Or if you're offering some assistance at lunchtime, or, be consistent, whatever that is, whatever's going to work for you and your team. Stick with it for a couple of weeks and see how it's going. And if you need to change it up, then say, hey, you know what, it wasn't working. So based on what your feedback, we're going to change it. But let it be based on the information that you're getting as things are changing and in flux so often. And I'm seeing a lot of really good things in the chat. I'm trying to talk and read at the same time. And so, and then who can you delegate? I like that. Christy's sharing that she's divided up, who is the main person of contact for specific grade levels. If you can delegate, do it. If you've got some strong lead teachers who are willing to also be some supports that you regularly already worked with, thinking of ways that you can take some of that pressure off yourself is important too.
So Brittany Miller, I wonder who she is. She shared that, we worked with her as a little inside joke. She shared that providing teachers a way to share lessons and activities so they're not duplicating their efforts. And then Rebecca shared that their teachers are allowed back in the building, I'm assuming in your own room, away from others, but she's created PD on Canvas so they can continue to get their CEUs. And Jill has teachers across districts sharing lessons. So I think that's a really great idea, a great use of time.
Yeah, making a hub, so to speak. If it's in a Google folder, Seesaw, I'm seeing, where are things that you can put information, because we all have crazy hours now and we all are wrangling children and teaching at the same time. Whatever it is that the folks you support are familiar with using, if you can consider a way of how can you keep using it so they don't have to learn a new thing right now, highly recommended. And then with the time that we've got left, we've got, just one more thing to consider. How are you managing your own self-care? because you're vital right now. A lot of people are asking you questions. You're probably finding out how many meetings really could have been emails, right? You've seen that going around. You've probably been in lots of different Zoom calls, and you are getting so much information, and you are disseminating so much information. And it's a time for flexibility. It's a time with a lot of stress. So if you've got a way that's working for you to practice your self-care, please go ahead and share it. If you want to pick up the mic, you can. But if you're also modeling your self-care, you're giving permission to your staff and reminding them that they ought to be doing it too. So I'm seeing a lot of coaches, taking a picture of themselves, going for a walk outside, practicing social distancing, or reading that non-job related book, or doing something that's saying, hey, this is my moment, what's your moment, and creating opportunities for people to share. I've even seen from a teacher, she invited her class to do a Flipgrid talent show. And I thought, as a coach, what would that look like for my staff? Staff talent show, here's Flipgrid, go for it. Do something totally non-work related, in just a way to take a breath, do something different. See the Flipgrid family dance off. I've watched every single one of those. It's the kind of, they're addictive, the dances. But, what are ways that you're just practicing that time, step away from the device, and because if you do it and you're reminding others, it's going to be important. So I'm looking at our time. I do want to share a resource that we have, that we've been sharing for a while now, even before all this. It is a free resource for educators, and it's called Stop, Breathe, and Think. It is an app. Not that you need to do one more thing on your phones, but it is actually pretty good. A few of us at the Friday Institute have been using it, and fairly simple to use. It is it asks you how you're feeling, and it gives you some prompts, some things to listen to, some maybe meditation, some activities, something that you can do based on how you're feeling on a particular moment on a given day. They also have resources for students as well. So when you sign up, it is for pay for everybody else except teachers, and this is not because of our current situation. It's been free for teachers since the beginning. So if you're interested in that, we highly recommend that you check that out. Nope, we can't go to the playground. Sorry, buddy. But we can go for a walk. And likewise, next week, on that note of self-care, we will be doing a slow chat, which is on our hashtag FI Connects, which is we'll be posting just a couple of challenges and a couple of questions about how you are taking care of yourself during this time. And you'll be able to find that on Twitter on our hashtag FI Connects. And we are working in partnership with an organization called Wellness for Educators to do that. So we just want to highlight that for you as well. It has been a very quick hour, and because we have, again, if you joined us last week, we've really changed it up this week, particularly for your group, for coaches, so that you have a forum for yourselves. And again, we are recording this so it can be viewed later. We're going to do a transcript of the chat because there's books and links and resources and things that are being shared here as well. But before you go, we do ask that you complete a short feedback survey for us, because we are flying the plane, building the plane while we're flying it. And we want to know, is this working for you? What more do you need? And I particularly have two questions. We have been asked if we have an online repository of where we're putting ideas and tools and stuff. There's a lot of those out there right now. We don't want to create one more thing. So I would love your feedback on whether we should create a repository for educators and coaches like you to add to. Do you think it's a good idea or not a good idea? Secondly, because this is, you all have great ideas and things to share. Are you interested in co-facilitating one of these sessions for FI Connects with us at the Friday Institute? If you are, we would like for you to put that note that you would like to co-facilitate in the feedback form as well. Make sure you add, it is optional, but make sure you add your email address if that is something you would like to do. But then also let us know what's working for you with this forum, with what we've put together in this hour, and what maybe you would like more of or you'd like to see change. So again, that bit.ly has been added into the chat as well. You'll note that when you complete the survey, you will get a link when you complete to that will auto-generate a certificate. We have been asked a lot to have some kind of certificate that you have joined us today, because educators are needing to show what they're doing during this time. So if you have any issue with gaining that link, please let us know as well in the chat. We are planning on doing this again next week at 2 p.m. On Tuesday. You can find us at that same website that you joined us from today. So we hope that you do come back with some ideas. Let us know in that feedback form what you want to talk about, because this time is for you. And we also encourage you to, if you would like, you can join us on Wednesdays at 2 in any of the educator forums, as well as we also have a district leader discussion happening that day as well. So please share out that go.ncsu.edu FI Connects to people. We really want to create opportunities for this shared collaboration and discussion. And before we go today, I do want to remind you, we did record this. You're going to find that recording on our YouTube channel, as well as all the recordings that we have captured thus far. Let me go ahead. I'm going to drop that YouTube link into our chat.
Jackie, can I promote my session for tomorrow?
Please do.
So tomorrow, Emmy Coleman and I will be facilitating FI Connects for high school educators. It's geared towards teachers, but if you work with high school teachers, I think you will get a lot out of our session tomorrow. It's only an hour, so we're going a little bit deep on lesson planning for those who are doing blended or online lessons. And then we're also going to try to narrow down that long list of tech tools that have been out there to be applicable to use with high school students in their lesson plan. So it's same time tomorrow, just a different link and different facilitators.
And we're also covering some additional topics with elementary, just along the same lines, lesson planning, how they're coping. And Brittany's in the chat. She's got middle school. So we will be back here at 2 o'clock tomorrow. We feel free to join us. I'm going to drop that link. It's the same one that you joined us with from today. So go ncsu.edu/FI Connects. And also, if you are one of those people who are really looking for ways to support your teachers getting some professional development credits, the Friday Institute has asked us to remind you, we have reopened a lot of our massive open online courses for educators. They're completely free. If you want to check that out, there is the link right there. We have reopened these courses and sessions for all abilities. So we have social emotional learning, foundations of reading, teaching mathematics with technology, and they're working on opening up some even more right now. So again, you can find that information at the place, but then if you want to come back and join us again for FI Connects, that's that Go and NCSU link that you've got there. So you please feel free, give us that feedback. Let us know how you're doing, what you need more of. Here's our contact information. We've had a few people reach out to us via email because it's what they were more comfortable with. We really thank you for your time today, and we'll keep the chat open if you've got any continuing questions or need any additional support. So thank you all very much. We know it's a trying time. Thank you for what you do every day, but especially thank you for what you're doing right now for our educators across this nation.